All right, everybody. How's it going? Back after a long hiatus, a lot of work. But actually, I already recorded this video and I'm having to do it again because, as a side note, totally unrelated, this video is brought to you by Balvenie Doublewood, a very fine scotch. Not as good as the sherry, I think, but still pretty good, and certainly much cheaper than, say, Johnny Walker Blue. So cheers to second round of recording the same video. So what we're going to look at today is, again, ripping off, or rather borrowing content from video games. Video games being a great source of inspiration. Most video games, especially in the fantasy sort of genre, are ripping off D&D anyways. So it's like you're just kind of taking it back, right? You're coming back home. This time we're going to look at World of Warcraft. A lot of great content from World of Warcraft. Again, World of Warcraft generally is ripped off of D&D. But there's a lot of great stuff in Warcraft that is very easily applicable to D&D campaigns, Pathfinder campaigns, any kind of tabletop RPG. So we're going to look at some of those today, 6 of them specifically. So let's see. Let's just go in here, get into it. 6 things you can steal from WoW, right? World of Warcraft. And fair warning, when I played World of Warcraft, it was vanilla World of Warcraft mostly. So I didn't play a lot of the later iterations. I did play up to Wrath of the Lich King. But here's some things that are very fun to steal or use for your campaigns that I recommend. First, abilities. Oh my gosh, World of Warcraft has so many abilities for all the different classes. Some of them are quite useful. To give you an example, like the Sunder Armor from the Warriors, right? This is a great, easily adaptable ability. You can put it on an item, maybe you can make it a feat or whatever, but it essentially allows you, every time you hit successfully with it, you reduce the target's armor class, right? Make it easier to hit. Very easily adaptable to a tabletop RPG. The taunt ability, right? To force an enemy to attack you one time. Maybe they make a saving throw. If they fail, it's a warrior that forces, a fighter could use some ability that forces the enemy to use a save, right? Maybe a will save. If they fail, they have to attack the fighter, right? Easily adaptable. Stuff like that. The chain heal from the shamans, right? A great ability that you can adapt for any D&D Pathfinder game. The heal over time spells from the druids are also fun. The damage over time from warlocks, all of those abilities are very easily transferable and add a lot of sort of flavor and interesting aspects to a D&D campaign or a D&D build, or I say D&D, but it can be pretty much all of them, right? So lots of abilities to steal. There's tons of abilities in World of Warcraft that you can look at. Mechanics. So some of the mechanics that are used for the character classes in World of Warcraft are actually a lot of fun. Rage points, right? I think this went away after, but originally warriors would have these rage bars that filled up and things cost different rage points. But you could have it for barbarians, right? Where whenever they rage, they get 3 points, and then you have these abilities that cost 1, 2, or 3 points that they can use while they're raging, right? Easy way to adapt that, and it adds for a very fun mechanic, right? Adds a little flavor, adds something new, right? Spice up the barbarian. Combo points from rogues, right? You start off with certain combo points, certain attacks would build up combo points, and then you can execute other abilities based on how many combo points you built up. Those are easy things to adapt, right? Maybe, when you hit with a crit, you automatically get 2 or 3 combo points, which lets you crit again or something. You spend all 3 to do an instant crit or something like that for rogues, right? Soul shards. That was always a interesting mechanic from warlocks, right? They would drain souls and then they could use those soul shards to do stuff. So you could have that in a campaign where you have some sort of caster necromancer type character that accumulates little bits of soul from different enemies that he defeats, and maybe after he gets 5 or 6 of them, he can spend them all to create a meta magic effect, like maximize a spell or something, right? And these are just fun little mechanics that sort of add some flavor, some extra dimensions to the playable classes, right? So another one, crafting materials. Oh my God, Warcraft has tons and tons of crafting materials, herbs and ores. If you're into like herbalism and you want to make, potions and stuff, World of Warcraft is a great source to go pilfer different kinds of herbs. Like the ores, you can make into, you could give them a +2 magic sword, or you can give them a +2, Eternium sword, right? Made of Eternium or made of fell iron or, whatever, right? Great place to pilfer stuff like that. One of the ones I always wanted to use was the disenchant, right? Whenever you disenchant, World of Warcraft, when you get a lot of magic items that you didn't use, you could disenchant them into, like, I forget what it was, some dust. It was like arcane dust or something like that. But you could then use that dust as components for other stuff, right? Well, you could use, I always wanted to make a campaign where make that as a mechanic, where if you get a magic item you don't like, you can disenchant it into kind of arcane dust. And then if you get enough of that dust, like, 5 of them or something, you can enchant, you give it to a wizard and they'll, make your +1 sword or +2 sword, right? Something like that adds some sort of dimension. The disenchant material is also, a kind of commodity in and of itself, right? That you can trade. So you don't have to deal with that. Like, how are you carrying around 4,000 gold pieces, right? Well, actually, I just have 2 pounds of arcane dust that's worth 4,000 or whatever. A lot of leather, right? You can do troll hide. If you make leather armor out of troll hide, it's instantly +3 or something. Stuff like that. Very easy to adapt. Magical cloth. There was like netherweave cloth. Well, maybe if you use spirit weave and netherweave, you can make a bag of holding or a better bag of holding, right? Magical robes, cooking ingredients, tons of cooking ingredients. If you want to get into that, you can make, if you could add cooking just based on World of Warcraft right into your campaign, if you really wanted to, where they can, use some of these magical herbs to craft some magical meals, and you can make lambus bread, which everybody loves. So lots of crafting materials and ideas to steal from World of Warcraft. They're very easy to implement again. Artwork. So one of the things I always do is I make a sort of, and a lot of us do that, is the NPC sort of list with portraits, right? And maybe, like I just had a gang of orcs in a city, right? And their gang leader, I used a picture from World of Warcraft of an orc, right? I forget which one, but this was the gang leader, right? So you can, it's very easily, readily, they're made NPC portrait, right? Sometimes it tells a story on its own. I've used Illidan. I just used him as a random demon in one of my campaigns, and nobody that I played D&D with ever played Warcraft, so to them it was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. But there's lots of stuff. There's the demons. What are they called them? The big ones. There's a guy in Warcraft, Manaroth. That guy's portrait makes a fun addition, right? It's an interesting look for a demon that isn't typically in Pathfinder or D&D. A lot of the NPC, just inspiring artwork of all kinds, right? That kind of gives you a sort of a ready-made go-to character, right? You just build a story around a portrait, right? And people have done tons of extra. Right now, this is a nonprofit video, so I don't mind sharing these artworks that I found. Next one at 5 is dungeons and locales. Oh man, World of Warcraft had tons of locales. Like I remember in vanilla, like the first time you went into Silithus, you were like, whoa. It was just like totally alien kind of desert landscape overrun with bugs. It was just otherworldly. And it was very, very cool. And you could add something like that in your campaign, just kind of based off something out of World of Warcraft. Like Silithus is a good example, but Felwood, the Plaguelands, Ice Crown Glacier, all those kind of places, stuff from the Burning Crusade, Zangarmarsh Swamp. All those make very cool locales, and you can readily go online and show pictures of them, right? To add to the flavors, like this is what this place looks like. So it gives you, and they're sort of rich with ideas, and they were sort of ready made, right? The Plaguelands I did make a campaign where they went into, it was basically inspired by the Plaguelands. It was kind of maybe a mix of Plaguelands and Fellwood, but they went into an area where these necromancers had corrupted the whole area, and the animals were undead and all kind of stuff. And it was it was very much inspired by World of Warcraft. Dungeons, right? The dungeons, if you look at, I've never been a fan of the whole D&D like random 20 square room dungeon that are there for no reason other than to create a maze for people. The dungeons are, these instances in World of Warcraft, but the dungeons are mapped out and they make sense, right? There's the kind of sort of natural feel to them. Like Wailing Caverns feels like a series of caves. The Molten Core, right, has a great environment. Naxxramas, this big floating necropolis. Black Fathom Deeps had that sort of water cavern feel. A lot of these were very well designed, and they have maps already that kind of make sense, right? They're not these like goofy square grid, stupid dungeons, right? Ajol Narub, this like bug city in the ice, that's a cool one. All of this is ready made. You can just freaking lift it with the map. Here's like a picture of it with locations already mapped out in there, like easy, just ready to go, right? And it's already got a name, like it already has a theme and everything. Like it's just easy pilfering stuff, right? And fun stuff. Even copy the bosses sometimes. They're kind of interesting. Can't even remember, what was the one? Yeah, was it Maradon? The one in Desolus. Can't even remember anymore. It's been so long. But there's some very, very cool dungeons. Lastly, boss mechanics. There's a lot of very cool boss mechanics that if you implement them, for those of you that want to make interesting boss characters and boss enemies, World of Warcraft is a great place. I mean, they really had teams putting in lots of thought into these. Some of the more sort of famous ones were like Saffron and Naxxramas. Very few people actually play the original Naxxramas, but you had this dragon boss that essentially had this persistent cold AoE that you had to be geared for just to survive being in the room, right? But you could add an effect like that, maybe not that intense, but like a cold aura that's constantly present as the battle starts, right? And it's just this damage that happens every turn, and it gives the PCs something else they have to deal with, right? It adds this dimension to it that makes it more interesting. Knockbacks, right? It's like fame from Onyxia's raid, right? You could get knocked into the Whelp cavern there and wipe the whole friggin' raid, right? That's a mechanic you could add. From boss that would really throw them off. Put a hazard and have them get knocked into the hazard periodically to where, 1 or 2 rounds of that, they'll figure, the PC, they'll figure it out, and that, gives them something else to deal with, right? That's a sort of almost like an environmental hazard. And there's just tons of mechanics. There's just so many mechanics that they used in World of Warcraft. Like the twin emperors in Ankaraj, right? We had to take them both down at the same time. That was an interesting sort of development that you could adapt. You can take from video games and World of Warcraft in particular, right? I mean, there's just tons of stuff you can get from World of Warcraft. So that's just 6 ideas broadly, right? So that ends that particular episode. So if you have any ideas, feel free to share them in the comments, right? There's, like I said, there's tons of video games. I love hearing them. Different thing. I mean, especially from like old Nintendo games. Those are some of the more interesting ones. So if you have any more to share, feel free to put them in the comments. Like I said, I like hearing them, even if no one else is listening. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. I'm trying to do this more regularly. It's like midnight right now, and the AC keeps coming on, interrupting my professional recordings. Take it easy.